Hey everybody, can you believe I am going to do an acrylic pour? It's probably been a few years. I have a Bird of Paradise. I did a set 5 years ago and I still have one of the two left. I have a client who purchased this and she wanted 2 more to go with it. So I'm basically going to create 2 more in this video. Excuse my voice, I've had a cold and it's clearing up, but it's still hanging around. I am using mostly 90% DecoArt paint. They are my really #1 choice, Americana. So I've got bright yellow, bright orange, true red with just a hint of a alizarin crimson in it to deepen it just slightly. This one is a tube paint, quinacridone magenta. This is periwinkle, dioxazine purple, true blue, desert turquoise. This is a tube paint of phthalocyanine green, festive green, and then this one is sour apple, and I'm going to show you how I mixed it just so you can see. All of them, it's a 1-to-1 ratio of paint to Floetrol. So if it's 2 ounces of paint, then it's 2 ounces of Floetrol. And with DecoArt Americana paints, you do not have to add water. They're just really the right consistency. They're not my #1 choice of craft paint. #2 would be Craft Smart at Michael's, and they're the cheaper version by far. I do not like the acrylic paints that are in bottles. I think it's Apple Barrel at Walmart. I don't like them at all. So I avoid them like the plague. I've used other brands, but really DecoArt is my #1 choice. Then Craft Smart at Michael's, which is a Michael's brand. That is the perfect consistency. Just dribbles right in. Now I have white and black, and I do not put silicone in them, but these are all going to have silicone put into them. And I use white and black Flow acrylic by Artist Loft. So when you use this, you can do 1-to-1 ratio and then add water to get it to the perfect consistency. So if I use 3 ounces of white, then I use 3 ounces of Floetrol, and then I probably put another ounce or so in to make it the consistency I want. I'm not going to add silicone to this. I am going to add silicone to all my colors. This bottle I've had since the beginning of time of me pouring. I've had it 5 or 6 years. I've had a lot of these paints several years. I've had my Floetrol bottles for several years. I actually cleaned out all my bottles here that I put my mixtures into. I actually cleaned them out for the first time, and I had them for 2 or 3 years straight and continued to use them out of that one bottle, just continually adding leftover paint or whatever. If you store it in an airtight container, they will last a long time. So I like to get these kind of bottles with the really thin point for control on swiping. And as you can see, it's a really tiny nozzle. Here is the cheapy brand from anywhere, the dollar store. You can see the hole compared to the hull of this icing bottle. And so I have these on my Amazon recommendations. I highly recommend it. I'll list it under the video. But these you can control and do swipes and things where you want, not just fluid art where it's just random. If I were just going to do a pour that was random, I would do it out of the cups, you know, as far as however I wanted to do it. But when I'm doing an intentional swipe with fluid art, I put them into these bottles, and these are the kind that I love to use. I do have a couple of little bottles that are maybe at 2 ounces where I have just a little mixture of a color and not a lot, because I rarely use these colors, like a baby pink, and this is brilliant purple, another DecoArt color. I don't use those often, so I put them in smaller little 2-ounce bottles, but the rest of them go into these, they're 8 ounces, but they'll actually hold about 9 or so. So as far as my treadmill lubricant, the silicone, I do a drop per ounce of mixture. So these are all roughly about 4 ounces. That's about 2.5. This is, you know, a little baby cup. So I'm going to do, it doesn't even drip, it just pours out. That was about 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't really count it. If it poured, it poured. Whatever. And then I just stir it in. The more you stir, or the more you shake your bottles, the smaller the cells will be. And that's actually kind of what I want for controlled swipes. So stirring and shaking is perfectly okay. Now if you want really big cells, I use the OGX hair serum. I mix it into the color, just a few stirs, and then I don't mix it much at all after that. And that way you'll get larger cells. So that's just something, an FYI to consider. And these are not recipes like the Shelley Blooms. This is the traditional good old-fashioned acrylic pouring recipe with good old American Floetrol and using silicone oil for cells. You could actually pour these and not put silicone oil or hair OGX serum in, and you might still get some cells because it's Floetrol. But if you want cells, you put silicone oil or OGX hair serum. But I'm using silicone oil because that's what I used before with my other Bird of Paradise painting, and I want it to be similar to that one as much as possible that I can recreate it. And then I'm going to transfer them all to the squeeze bottles. I'm going to shake it a few times, and then I'm going to get started on my painting. And I do have the black already put into a bottle, that's some of it, and then some of it still in the cup. No silicone in it, but I'm going to pour some of that on some black canvases. And so I left some out of the bottle because I don't want, it'll take too long to do it out of the bottle. So I left it in a cup to cover the canvases. Again, Floetrol, the American version, latex based. Get it Lowe's and Home Depot and places like that. It lasts a long time. It goes quite a long ways. I already did, you know, probably 800 or so acrylic pours since I started my YouTube channel 5 or 6 years ago. So that's why I haven't done them lately, is I, you know, kind of got tired of it. And that's why you see me doing alcohol inks and resin and traditional acrylic painting, which is really the way I started 27 years ago, was traditional acrylic art. Take your bottle, pinch your cup. These are paper cups. If you wanted 8 ounce, you could mix it in larger cups. Again, all of these have silicone. They will all make cells. So you put the lid on. This is a screw-on lid, which is perfect because it makes it airtight, and you can shake, 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 and it's perfect. Some of my bottles that I had from years ago are stained with the color that was in them forever, so some of them I'm just putting the color that I used to have in it back into it. I'm also using a acrylic plastic pull trowel. You can put your hands around it. It's not sharp. I've tried it with the metal, and it's thin and very sharp, and I've cut myself, so I switched to the plastic pull trowel. And I also used a credit card or old gift card or whatever for swiping. I prepared some damp paper towels. I'm in a studio that doesn't have a sink because I'm upstairs, so I just spray my paper towels. I got 2 18 by 24 canvases. They come black. There's very little waste of paint with this style as well, because you're really just working with a limited surface area. You're not tilting and dripping off, that kind of thing. You have very little wasted paint. I have a icing spreader by Wilton. You get it at Walmart or Amazon or wherever. And I am going to put gloves on. When I take my tools, each time I wipe them off before I swipe the next time. So you want gloves on so you don't have, I don't like paint all over my hands. So I'm going to take this black Artist Loft mixture. So I just want a light skim coat. I don't want a standing puddle of black paint. All right, let's get busy. Okay, I think I'm done. And what I'm going to do is let it dry. It's already dry in a lot of the black places, and even some of the thinner areas are dry. And once it's dry around the edges of the colors, I'm going to go in and straighten up some thick areas of the stems with the black, the same black that I used before. That's what I've been using to paint on, just to touch up areas that are dry. But I'll use it to really touch up, clean up areas once it's fully dry. I might just fast forward and show that when I do actually work on that. I'll show me shaping up things on it, so I'll be back. It's been overnight and this is completely dry. That's the beauty of the swiping technique, is the paint is never thick enough to take a day or two to dry, because you're just skimming the surface and you've got a thin layer of paint. So I've got my leftover cup with just a little bit of black in the bottom. I'm going to use it to just clean up around some edges. So I've got a regular brush that I was using yesterday when I was working on this, right in here. But anyway, let me switch to the big brush areas, and you got to put it on pretty heavy because it is mixed with Floetrol, so it's not super opaque. And then I want to also thin out some of the areas with the green, and it'll dry, or I can use a blow dryer to speed the process up, and then I can go back over it again. You just want to use the same black that you used for the background. I could even take this, as a matter of fact, that's what I'm going to do. I use the Artist Loft that's in a quart. This comes from Michael's, and I'm just going to put a drop in there. Swish it around a little bit, and that's going to be more of the straight out black paint, which will help with coverage over areas. Again, just cleaning up some of the areas that I want it to be a little bit, more refined. Here's the original from 2018, and here's the one on the left that I did in the video showing how I did these, and the one on the right. So those three make up a triptych. Got to pan out. They're all 18 by 24.